All right, so just imagine for a second with me. You just got out of church and it's like 12:30 and you are starving. And then an idea hits you. You share your brilliant idea with all your homies on which restaurant you guys are trying to hit on the way home from church. You share it and you say, let's go to Chick-fil-A. And your homies are like, bet. All right, I'm gonna stop trying to be cool now. Is that awesome? All right, anyways, so you guys are on the way to Chick-fil-A. You guys are driving and you pull up to the drive-thru and you realize the absolute worst thing in the world. It is Sunday. And everyone knows that Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. All right, got that out of the way. So you could go to In-N-Out because you still want to support that Jesus fast food. And you guys ever notice that In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A are like always right next to each other? Do they have like this weird Christian fast food Illuminati? Anyways, you could go to In-N-Out. It's amazing. It's delicious, animal style. But nothing is going to satisfy that craving of the Chick-fil-A chicken nugs or the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich with that Chick-fil-A sauce. Amen? Well, if something like this hasn't happened to you, if you haven't decided to go to Chick-fil-A only to learn that it is a Sunday, you're either one of two things. You're either a vegetarian or you're a liar. So I'm 24, which is old compared to you guys, but any other person that would, if I would to say, hey, I'm old in front of any other person besides students, they would just laugh at me. But you guys think I'm old. So I don't remember this time though, even though I am ancient and 24, this magical time where apparently in America and lots of different places, things were closed on Sunday, just like Chick-fil-A. This is definitely not a part of our cultural norm anymore, right? So today, we're gonna be talking about this concept of rest and Sabbath. For those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Brandon. I love you guys, I miss you guys. I get the privilege of leading worship with Compass students alongside Natalie. I get to lead worship for adults. I have literally the greatest job in the world. That I get to hang out with people and play music and talk about Jesus. So I'm really glad to be with y'all today talking about rest and Sabbath. So the title of my sermon today is, Are You Tired? Say it to the person next to you, wherever you're at. Ask him, are you tired? So back to this whole concept of Sabbath. So that's what we're gonna be looking into today, Sabbath and this concept of rest. And we need to figure out what is rest, what is Sabbath. Is it sheltering in place? Is it quarantine like we've been doing? I hope not. Is it an ancient form of a power nap? No. Is it just, does it mean what Chick-fil-A is, just closed on Sunday? I would argue not. But Sabbath is the big idea for the backdrop of our message today. So in order to kind of explain some context before we get into our biblical text, I just want to give you a little bit of what Sabbath is according to the Bible. So Sabbath is a 24-hour period of rest practiced by God's people in the Old Testament, the Jews, as well as Jesus, who himself was Jewish in the New Testament. So a 24-hour period of rest. And there are two main reasons why Jews practice Sabbath. The first reason is that God modeled it in creation. So he created the world in 7 total days, right? He did all of his creating in the first 6 days, earth and sky, land animals, sea animals, men and women, all throughout the 6 days. And then on the 7th day, he rested. And through his rest, we know that he didn't need to rest. He is God, but he was modeling it for us. So that is why the Jews practice Sabbath. That's reason number one. Reason number two, they practice Sabbath was worked into the law. A lot of people, they called it the Mosaic Law or the Law of Moses. The 10 Commandments, a lot of you guys might be familiar with. That is a part of that law. And there are over 600 other laws that they ended up having to follow, a lot of them pertaining to Sabbath. And many of them, with all of those laws, they got really legalistic with everything. And much like a lot of legalistic people today, legalistic Christians, they miss the heart behind what Sabbath meant. So that is the context before we hop into our scripture. Cool? All right, cool. So we're going to be in our Bibles today camping in Hebrews 4. So Hebrews chapter 4, we're going to start in verse 1. We ready to go? Awesome. All right, so it says, therefore, since the promise of entering his rest still stands, let us be careful that none of you found to be fallen short of it. For we also have had the good news proclaimed to us just as they did, but the message they heard was of no value to them because they did not share the faith of those who obeyed. Now we who have believed enter that rest just as God has said, so I declared my oath in anger, they shall never enter my rest. And yet his works have been finished since the creation of the world. For somewhere he has spoken about in the seventh day these words, on the seventh day, God rested from all his works. And again in the passage above, he says, they shall never enter my rest. Therefore, it still remains for some to enter that rest. And since those who formerly had the good news proclaimed to them did not go in because of their disobedience. All right, so that was a lot. So context break. So what the author of Hebrews is saying, they say therefore right at the top of the statement, at the top of that verse, beginning of that chapter. So when you say therefore, you're trying to make a point. So what I do when I'm reading scripture, particularly a letter like this, and they say therefore, the pastor in me is like, all right, I got to jump to the chapter before and see what point they're trying to make. And I believe that the point he's trying to make is that Jesus is greater than Moses. You know, you guys remember Moses, the Old Testament, part of the Exodus, helping the Israelites get out of Egypt and to the promised land eventually. And then the second point that they're trying to make is they're making a warning against unbelief. So that's the backdrop for this verse. So back to the passage. It says, there remains then a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their works, just as God did from his. Let us therefore make every effort to enter that rest so that no one will perish by following their example of disobedience. So they're following, but what the author of Hebrews means by this is when the Israelites left Egypt, when they were led out by God and by Moses, Moses, with God's power parted the Red Sea. They walked through on dry land, the sea came crashing down. Then they were wandering through the desert. And the reason they had to wander, guys, is because of their disobedience. And they ended up having to wander the desert for 40 years, which resulted in an entire generation of Israelite people not being able to enter the promised land, including Moses himself. So imagine that. So because of their disobedience, they were unable to enter the rest. So that was a lot. So what I want to do, kind of just to make it easier, not only for myself, but for all of us to understand this passage, is I just want to break down this passage into two themes, okay? So the two themes of the passage, if we were wanting to simplify stuff, the first theme is this connection between belief and obedience, or disbelief and disobedience. And then the second theme is kind of the metaphor used for the promised land, or eventually obeying, which is Sabbath and rest. And as I said, the Israelites were forced to wander in the desert because of their disobedience. Their disobedience is directly connected to their disbelief. And while disobedience and disbelief go hand in hand, I believe that the opposite is also true. That our faith and our trust, so our belief and our obedience, lead us to steps that lead us to a place of peace and lead us to a place of rest. So that leads to this second theme, this metaphor used throughout the sermon of rest and of Sabbath, pertaining to the promised land in the context of Israelites, and then the rest of God that we have now. In fact, the text even says in verse 1, it says, therefore, since the promise of entering his rest still stands, let us be careful that none of you be found to have fallen short of it. So we have this rest available. it still stands. That's what it says. The Hebrew author is talking to Jewish people, and this still applies to us today, I believe. We have the opportunity to enter into God's rest, the rest of God. So I want to ask you guys, how does rest sound to you? I mean, a nap, or maybe just feeling a little bit less like the world's gonna implode a lot of the time? Are you tired? Are you anxious? Are you worn out? Are you insecure? At the time of me recording this, guys, like, there is so much going on. Remember when coronavirus was a thing? It still is, and it's, hopefully it's not going to get worse and we don't have to, be all sheltered in place again. But I remember when that was our biggest problem, and now there is so much going on with division and tension and this racism. All of this going on. I can only imagine, like, I'm tired of it and I am worn out by it, but I can only imagine how some of my Black brothers and sisters are feeling. This is something that they've been experiencing their entire life. Imagine their anxiety, every time they have to go out or every time they get pulled over. I can't, I try and put myself in their shoes and I want to understand, but the truth is I'll never be able to understand. So maybe you're anxious just from looking at your phone every day and seeing more and more negativity, more and more division. Maybe you're just worn out by all of it. Or maybe you're still nervous about coronavirus. We all could be in those different places. And what I believe, no matter where we're at, first of all, we need to help each other and stand by each other. And second of all, I believe the point of this sermon that, the answer to are you tired is, yeah, Jesus, I'm tired, but I know that you offer rest. So I believe that through this passage and through kind of the themes that we've unpacked, that there are two types of rest that Jesus offers us. The first type of rest, I believe, is this it's rest from earning and trying to be good enough. Because I believe ultimately, guys, that Jesus is our rest, that through him we have assurance of salvation, right? That we were once separated from God because of sin, right? Sin, which is a cause of so many of the different things that make us tired or give us anxiety. Sin because people are sinful. But if we believe, we can enter into a rest of our salvation just in the fact that we don't need to do anything to earn Jesus' love for us. We don't need to try and be good enough. Jesus sees us as he finds us, right? That's what we sing. And he loves us exactly where we are. And we're called to love others where we are. We don't need to try for it. But there is this interesting distinction when it comes to trying. Kind of this distinction, this difference between, trying to earn it and putting in effort. One of my favorite pastors, Dallas Willard, this brilliant pastor, way smarter than me. He says this, he says, grace is not opposed to effort, it's opposed to earning. Earning is an attitude and effort is action. I believe that effort's important, that if we follow Jesus, we should put in effort. We should love people. We should do what Jesus did, right? But earning, this attitude of earning, it's something that we need to abandon, that we are able to have rest from when we trust in Jesus. So many of us try to earn. Following Jesus isn't about proving that we're good enough to anyone, especially ourselves, right? When we look in the mirror, it's about pointing to God's goodness, and it's about giving him control, which leads to the second kind of rest that I believe Jesus gives us it's the rest from having to be in control, guys. I don't know about you. I am a control freak with a lot of things. I grasp for control. Maybe if you're sitting next to or you live with someone that's a control freak, don't look at them, don't call them out, but just, or maybe it's you. I don't know. I believe that all of us have some sort of problem with control with something where we hold on a little bit too tightly instead of having open hands and allowing Jesus to deal with it. But wherever we're at with control, I believe that the first sin in all of the world, the sin that we find in Genesis 3, was ultimately a sin of control, right? Like I said, everyone was made in the image of God. We were made in God's image. We were made in his likeness. Yet the sin of control for Adam and Eve, when they decided to eat the apple or eat the fruit from this tree, was they wanted to be God. They wanted the control. The Bible paints this picture of Sabbath and rest, which I believe is an opportunity to allow God to be God. It puts God in his rightful place, and it restores the rhythms of things. It restores the proper the proper order of things. From the beginning, I believe that God set this precedent where on the seventh day he rested from his works, not because he needed to, but to show us how to restore that proper order. So we're talking about Sabbath, right? And, in our passage today, we read, "For anyone who enters God's rest also rests from their works, just as God did from his." And one of my other favorite pastors, I literally share his stuff all the time. He's super, super hip. He does ministry in Portland. His name's John Mark Comer. And when talking about Sabbath, he says, "I've had people laugh off the call to Sabbath with this terrible cliche." And I think we've probably all heard it before. Well, yeah, the devil never takes the day off. So last time I checked, he's the devil, and the devil loses, right? Plus, when in the world would we ever want to take our hints from Satan? That's the worst excuse in the world to me. And I don't think he should be our model. I believe that God offers us a true rest by giving up control, which is just this total awesome upside down thing that I believe the kingdom of God does. It's this tension of when I'm doing nothing, I am actually contributing and I am doing something. So, Compass students, we have rest from trying to be good enough, trying to earn it. We have rest by giving up control. So what does it look like to live in this? What's the takeaway? I believe that the Christian life is all about looking more like Jesus. If we're called followers of Jesus, we're called Christians, little Christs, right? So we want to, we read stories about who he is, but ultimately we want to become more like him. And I think that's awesome. But if we want to become more like him, more like Jesus, we need to adopt his lifestyle. That means adopting his temperament, his habits, the way that he just lives his life. And he was a practicing Jew, so he practiced Sabbath. And I believe that that is something that is completely and utterly essential for us to model. And it's changed my life and the wife, me and my wife Amelia and our daughter Delilah, it has helped ground us so much in this tough season of, having a 9-month-old who doesn't sleep, who just sleeps with us and is crazy. But I believe that Jesus was a pro at practicing Sabbath, and he was also really a pro at breaking down all the people that get a little bit too legalistic about it. And in Mark 2:27, he says, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath." And I think that's really cool because it shows that God designed within the confines and the grain of the universe that we are to practice Sabbath, not just to obey, not just to do nothing, but because God knows that we need this day. We need this day of rest and delight and worship. And that's kind of the filter that I run my Sabbath through. John Mark Comer, again, he says, "Sabbath is anything to index your heart toward grateful recognition of God's reality and goodness." So I know what you're thinking. Hey, listen, pastor, singer guy, that sounds great and it sounds spiritual and but I'm a 7th through 12th grader. How does that apply to me? Well, 7th through 12th grader, let's get into the practice, what we can do. These two different things based kind of on our themes of our passage. So remember these themes? We had obedience and belief kind of going hand in hand also with disobedience and belief. And then our second theme is we had the Sabbath rest theme. So I have one thing with each of these themes that we can kind of do starting this week. You ready? All right, so obeying and believing. So basically, when we're talking about living life with Jesus, right, I believe that it's something that we are to practice. And when, I don't know if you play an instrument, a lot of my worship team peeps, shout out to them. Or, if you play sports, you play baseball, basketball, football, swim, whatever. Or if you work out, or if you want to eat healthy, guess what? When you start, you are trash at all of those things. When I started playing guitar, guys, I was horrible. I was horrible for like 2 or 3 years. And then suddenly something clicked and I was amazing. No, I'm always trying to get better. One of those things, eating healthy, I am trash at that, and I've been trying and practicing it, and I'm still bad at it, But I believe that when you practice, you eventually get better and you're able to incorporate it into your lifestyle, and you end up believing a little bit more. Like, oh, I practice eating healthy, and I've seen the benefits, so I believe it. Our disciplines eventually turn into delights. I love playing guitar right now. When I was in 4th grade and my fingers were bleeding and I literally, I was 9 years old, I did not love playing guitar. Now I do it for fun. Now I get to do it for my job, and it is amazing. So first thing, we need to have our disciplines turn into delight. So what that looks like is just giving your life a little bit more structure. Every day, guys, I want to plan you to, I want to implore with you, I want to challenge you to plan your quiet time. Whether it's in the morning, if you're a morning person, shout out to my morning coffee people, or if you're a night person or somewhere in between, take some time to read the Bible. We're always going through Bible reading plans, or take some time to review your notes from Justin or whoever's sermon before, and just take the time to structure out your day and dedicate that day to God. All right, so that's the first thing, the obeying and believing piece. And then there's the actual piece of how do we practice Sabbath rest. So you guys are on summer right now, most of you, that's great. Except for Elijah, he's got online school. You gotta get that done, bro. I just called you out, buddy. I'm sorry. Anyways, most of us are on summer. Some of us have summer jobs. Hopefully all of us have summer plans and all of that. And my challenge to you is to begin to see what it would look like to practice a Sabbath. So there's lots of challenges that come with that, but basically, what I would want you guys to do is pick a day. Typically, it works, on the day that you go to church, to practice a 24-hour period. Maybe that's on a Sunday for you. For me and Amelia, it's on Friday because I work on the weekends, right? But pick a 24-hour period and dedicate that day to rest, delight, and worship. And it is awesome, guys. So you could start it with church, go get breakfast burritos, go get Chick-fil-A as long as it's not on Sunday. So we can do that on Fridays. What's up? But one of the two of the biggest things that you're gonna run into trying to practice Sabbath as students is that you're gonna need to prepare for it. So I saw some funny, Facebook posts from Faith and Sophia Burt talking about not doing dishes on a Sabbath day. That is hilarious. But what I would challenge Faith and Sophia is get your dishes done before your Sabbath, and then you won't have to do it. And also, once school starts, get the homework done before Sabbath, man, for real. Just get it done. You can do it, do your homework on all the other days and then try and get it done so that you can rest. And I feel you. I'm in school right now for my master's, so I have homework. So that is my challenge, to get it done. And then also, we just talked about this in, Jordan calls it Daddy Church, so I'm gonna just call it Daddy Church, our adult gathering. But we just talked about, practicing Sabbath in our adult gathering or Daddy Church. So if your guys' parents go here, begin to have a conversation about what Sabbath could look like for your guys' family. I know it's hard, especially if your parents don't go here, they don't practice, but either way, just take some time, talk to your parents about Sabbath. Because ultimately, guys, my experience with Sabbath, I've learned, first of all, how addicted I am to my phone, how addicted to doing things I am, just how difficult it is to take time to rest and take time to have a day off. So I actually choose most of the time on Sabbath to even turn off my phone. I know. Do you guys even know how to turn off your iPhone? Is that a thing? Okay, no judgment here. Biggest challenge with Sabbath, guys, is I want to encourage you to start with where you're at. We are constantly trying to tweak things so it can be more effective for us. But remember, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for Sabbath. So it's not about the spirit of legalism at all. It's not about being rigid. I believe it's about resisting the ways of the world, saying that you're only good enough for what you can contribute. And it's about embracing the way of Jesus and adopting his lifestyle. So I'm going to end with this invitation. It's from the book of Matthew, and it's from the Message version. And I love this invitation, guys, because it kind of sums up this whole talk that I've been giving. And Jesus asked this question to all of us. And it's just so powerful. And I'm going to just use this as a prayer, as an invitation for you guys to go a little bit deeper this week in your relationship with Jesus. So let's just use this verse as our prayer out. But it starts with Jesus saying, "Are you tired? Worn out? Burnt out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me and watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you will learn to live freely and lightly." Compass students, I love you guys. Have an incredible week.